Hi, welcome to Quartertone Harmony. I'm Kurt, and today I'm going to talk about chords in quartertone tuning. Quartertone tuning is created by dividing an octave into 24 equal parts instead of the usual 12. This creates two fields of the usual 12-note tuning, interlaced with each other and separated by a quarter tone. Here's one field, and here's the other. Each sounds completely ordinary, because it is. But combined, you get something different. Conventional wisdom holds it's very difficult to combine notes from the two fields into good chords. As Easley Blackwood says in the liner notes for his microtonal etudes, without exception, the notes in the cracks make extreme discords with the other notes, and there are only a very few satisfactory harmonies that combine the two. At least for all the quartertone pieces I've been able to find, that pretty much holds. Almost all the new chords are indeed very dissonant. But is it really that hard to find good chords that combine the fields? Let's test it and find out. A little background on harmony first. Western harmony works by combining notes that share harmonic partials. For example, the major chord contains the fourth, fifth, and sixth harmonics of a root tone. The chord is built with octaves and good 12-tone approximations to two other harmonics. The third harmonic, confusingly an interval fifth, and the fifth harmonic, confusingly an interval of a third. Quartertone tuning adds two new harmonics that have no decent approximation in 12-tone. The 11th and the 13th. It also adds a second approximation to the 7th harmonic, which is not great, but better than the one in 12-tone, which is pretty far off. So, the 7th harmonic is used in standard harmony for things like the dominant 7th chord. What happens if we replace the 12-tone 7th in that dominant 7th chord with the slightly better one from the other field? According to conventional wisdom, this will sound awful. Wait, what? That doesn't sound so bad. That sounds kind of good, maybe with a barbershop feel to it. Well, can we use it in a progression? Oh, that's fine. If you're feeling ambitious, put the field shift in the upper parts. That seemed too strong to me at first, but after a while I came to like it. Let's call this modified dominant 7th chord a harmonic 7th chord to give it a name. The dominant 7th is one of the most important chords in modern Western harmony. About 100 years of music being written for quartertone by dozens of professional musicians, and nobody noticed the warm sound of a quartertone 7th in a dominant 7th chord. The 20th century composer Vishnu-Gradsky wrote a number of pieces for quartertone tuning and a short book on quartertone harmony. What does he have to say about the 7th harmonic? The A half sharp here can be interpreted as the 7th harmonic, which shows the introduction of a foreign element to classical harmony. For this reason, it is better to provisionally abstain from such proceedings. Provisionally, okay, but for a whole century, isn't that a bit much? To be fair to Vishnu-Gradsky, he, and many other composers writing for quartertone tuning, was composing mostly on the piano. And oddly, this chord does not sound so good in a piano timbre. That does sound wrong. Why does this chord sound good in a string timbre and bad in a piano timbre? I see two reasons. First, pianos are deliberately designed not to produce the seventh harmonic. The hammers on most strings strike close to the first node of the seventh harmonic vibration, which suppresses that harmonic in the produced notes. So the harmonic that unifies that chord in a string timbre is missing on the piano. Second, and I think more importantly, string players can and do bend their pitches for a variety of reasons, starting with vibrato. And so we're used to hearing notes in a string timbre that don't exactly come from the 12-tone tuning system. On a piano, we aren't, and so the added notes just sound out of tune. But easily, if you are working on synthesizers, you have no excuse. What about those other two harmonics, the 11th and the 13th? Turns out in quartertone, they make a minor third with each other. Can we just use them together with the tonic for a chord? Sad and dissonant, but I think it's musically useful. What if we add in a minor third to that chord? That sounds even better, kind of with a jazzy sound to my ears. What about with a major third? All right, that one is kind of off. I think the problem comes from this interval of 9 quartertones here. That really is very dissonant, and I think it messes up the chord. Back to that jazzy sounding chord. Let's call it the harmonic 13th to give it a name. Can we use that in a progression? Let's try it replacing the minor subdominant. Tangy compared to a simple triad, but I think that's musically useful. Again, if you're feeling ambitious, put the field shift in the upper parts. Just like with the harmonic 7th, that seemed too strong to me at first, but after a while I got used to it. Playing around with these and a bunch of other chords, I've developed a set of rules for good chords in quartertone tuning, which I call the dinner party rules, because they're kind of like the rules for putting together a successful dinner party. Roughly speaking, they're just the standard rules for chords in 12-note tuning extended to quartertone. Without subjecting you to a whole bunch of blatty experiments that got me here, here they are. Rule 1. Every chord has to have a chain of friends to every other note in the chord. A friend is another note separated by either a major third, a minor third, a neutral third, or a harmonic second, which is the inverse of a harmonic 7th. Rule 2. No note can have an enemy. An enemy is another note in the chord, separated by one quartertone, and sometimes, but not always, 9 or 15. Rule 3. No crowding. No note can have more than one other closer than a major second. Rule 4. Don't use a piano timbre. It doesn't work. These rules give a number of additional chords combining notes from both 12-note fields. The minor harmonic 7th, the neutral 13th, the 19th to 15th chord, the added 13th minor, the minor harmonic 11th, the neutral 11th, the major harmonic 11th, the neutral triad, the neutral harmonic 7th, the neutral dominant 7th, the harmonic diminished 7th, and 2 stacked harmonic seconds. In addition, here's a couple more chords, which break the 9 or 15 quartertone rule, but which I like anyway. The subminor triad, the subminor harmonic 7th, the subminor dominant 7th, and 3 stacked harmonic seconds. Oh, that's That's a lot of chords. And that's not even all of them because I didn't want you to get bored. Are they usable chords? Well, yeah. In general, I found conventional wisdom has the difficulties of mixing the fields reversed. Correctly chosen mixed field chords work just fine, as we've heard. What sounds rough to Western ears is melodic shifts between the fields, which conventional wisdom doesn't fret about very much. For example, Blackwood writes, notes from the two fields may become alternated to good effect. Not my experience. At first, almost every shift sounded off to me. After a while, some sounded okay, and some still sounded wrong. I've written a couple of demo progressions to show some of the uses of these new quarter-tone chords. But what I can't say is what they sound like to naive ears anymore, because by the time I had enough knowledge to make them, I'd been listening to this for a while, and so I'd started to get used to it. But what I can promise you is that if some of this sounds a little off to you, it's not the chords and it's not the progressions. It's those melodic shifts that you're not yet used to. Here's a 4-5-1 cadence using a neutral triad. Different in feel from either a major or a minor triad, with something of a modal feel, even though it's not in any of the traditional Greek modes. Here's a subminor triad being used as a pivot chord from G minor to G half sharp minor. This shows kind of a hyperminor feel that you can create from the correctly chosen quarter-tone chords. And here's a harmonic 13th chord being used as a pivot chord in a modulation from G major to C half sharp major. This shows that you can actually get smooth melodic effects even when you're shifting back and forth between the fields, and also gives some indication of the new modulations which become possible when you add in quartertones to your repertoire. Now, I know a lot of you are asking, what is going on with those modulations and how do I make things sound like that? Well, if you're interested in that, hit like, hit subscribe, and hit notify, because I'll start talking about that in my next episode. But in the meantime, if you're a little bored with the standard 12-tone chords, try substituting some of the ones I've talked about in this episode. If it results in a field shift that seems a little rough to you, well, move the field shift to an inner part, or disguise it by having parts shifting fields together in contrary motion. Till then, keep making music and keep making a difference.